Hey chainsaw freaks, MS 460. Oh yeah, this is one of the Stihl big boys. This is the third largest chainsaw in the Stihl line, and after that's the MS 660 and of course the MS 880. This is my personal MS 460. This is going to get a full remake. Everything will be done on it. This will look virtually like a brand new saw. All the parts are ordered. I'll show you all that later, another time. But first, before I get to this project, which I really want to get to, because I've got virtually all the parts now, except for the ceramic bearings are coming. They're coming Monday, so Saturday today, so next week. But I have to get through another build first, and that involves, now I'll just put this aside. It involves this. And this. What you got here is the 090, but this is a Hutzl. So, I mean, engineering, it's Stihl's. Where it's made, China, by Hutzl. Is it good? Well, to be honest, we don't really know yet. We had a slight problem with the flywheel and the crankshaft. See, the flywheel came off, and see, it's got these needle cage bearings in. Needle cage, that's what it runs on. The whole thing just slips together. It's quite neat actually. Hopefully I'll show you that. I want to try and do a few more videos like this so you can sort of see me working. They'll be a bit longer. There'll be a couple of issues with that. You might be interrupted by kids sometimes. Got two boys, so they might come and talk to me or whatever, or my wife. That could happen as well too. So there's all sorts of things that could go on, interrupt these videos. But nevertheless, that's life, and that's the way it is. Be careful with that, eh? Sorry, just talking to my boy Ezra. Be careful with that, eh? What are you doing?
Just cutting grass.
Are you still making a fire?
Yeah.
Have you stopped?
Yeah.
Is it out?
Yep.
Okay. Very good. Just be very careful with that, Ezra. He's got a knife. He'll be alright. Got to trust him sometimes. So, now we need to clean this up and get this back together. I have a new crank to put in it. Find it. Get a whole bunch of bits here. Some of the bits. Crank. Where's the new crank? There we go. So, anyway, on the cranks, they have this bit which the flywheel key sits into. And the problem we had with this saw is when the flywheel came off, the key that Hutzl supplied for the crankshaft there was so strong. I don't know what it was made out of, but it didn't shear, and it blew the inside of the flywheel apart and broke a bit off the old crank. I'll just grab the old crank to be able to see. It was worse than this, but I actually ground it down and got it back in there, because it relies on the taper to stay in there, not the key. The key's just to locate for timing. So I don't know how well you can see that, but that's that big chip out of there. So that's what happened there. And the inside of the flywheel's not that great either. Anywho, we have a build to do. So that all has to go back together. These, as I say, once I've got this new crank sorted out, this piston piston off here and in. It's got these really hard leather bushings that fit inside the crankcase, either side of they just go in there like that. There's a little bit of side-to-side play in these things, like a top handle, but that's okay. It's the, when the bearings start going like that, that's bad. And the whole thing just seems to slide effortlessly right through the seals and all. So I've not had a problem with. I've had this part once before, and so this is actually the third time I'm building it, because I built it initially, then the flywheel came off with that weird non-key sharing thing, and then so I rebuilt it then. But yeah, and this will be the third time. But in the meantime, Steve has got, well, my mate has got this larger cylinder and piston kit, and this is the 090. So it takes this from 100 cc's, which is, it's pretty brutal at, all the way up to 137 cc's. I don't know if you can see the arrow. See that arrow? That always face out the exhaust port on a cylinder, so you know, because you want these little, it's got little locator pins for the rings. You want those pins at the back, facing out the back, because you don't want them on the exhaust side. So the arrow, where is it? There. That always goes to this side, which is the exhaust port. And I've cleaned this cylinder up a bit. It actually was it was jamming towards the top. It's not doing that anymore. It's going nice now. So I had to hone that out a little bit. And while I was in there, I cleaned up a few of the ports as well too. No major porting or anything like that. And I just smoothed out the exhaust port as well too, so that's nice and flat and shiny in there. Nice and smooth. So it's going to have some good airflow. The intake side, I flattened off a couple of the casting bits. I don't know how well you can see it, but just a bit of a casting bit in there I flattened off. So I figure, like, you want these intake sides a bit more rougher, because they help break up the fuel and the air mixture as it goes in there. But you want your flow side, your exhaust port, to be nice and smooth. So that's smoothed off a lot. That's what I think anyway. I think that helps. And so yeah, that's pretty much it for this. So these have a couple of different things here. They pretty much have two impulse lines. See, there's one that'll lead to the carby up there. All right, but then they have down in the case here, they actually have another one. You see this little brass bit in here? That's another one, and that leads off to this pipe here, which goes to the oiler mechanism. And so a little pulse from the engine drives the oiler. But you can also manually pump more oil if you want it on these as well too, by depressing this little trigger here, which is quite cool. This is quite tricky to set up in here. Like, I mucked it up totally the first time. I had to pull it all apart and do it all again. But there's not a lot around on these saws and how to put them together, so you just kind of got to do your best and hope for the rest, really. But the first time I built it was really successful. I'm just looking for something here. I usually keep a little blade around somewhere that I like to clean up Where is my little blade? Oh, I know where it is. Now, I'm an ex-painter. You'll probably find this funny as, but what is he doing with the painting scraper? The tungsten blades on here are really super hard, and I use these for cleaning up a lot of chainsaw parts. They stay sharp for a long time. It's just a tungsten blade. And so when I'm doing something like this, I just use it to scrape all this. So, yeah, as I was saying, I just go around, scrape all this off. This is all the gasket maker that I use. The gasket maker that I use, I found a really good one. I think Donny Boy 73, he's a good saw builder. He uses this stuff. So it's the Permatex Ultra Black oil. I think I've had it on another video anyway, earlier on. Maximum oil resistance, oil fuel, heat. It's a really good gasket maker, and it's not failed me yet. Now, there's other saw builders out there say, no, you don't use gasket maker, and I think there's a time and a place, you know. Like I like to use it to where the gaskets meet in the middle here of the when you put the two cases together, the gasket comes up here and you actually cut off these tops. And if you cut them wrong or not enough or too much, it's possible you can create an air leak in there. So I like to put some gasket sealer, gasket maker, like this stuff, on that bottom layer. It also holds a gasket in place when I'm trying to get everything together as well too, which if I make this video well, you'll see sort of how that goes. And so yeah, I'll just clean that up there like that with my little tungsten blade. That is primo. I've got to clean the rest of this up. It's been sitting for a bit. Just a project I've had waiting here for me to do. Got to put the new crankshaft back in, all that sort of thing. Well, normally this has got a bit of rust on it. I'll normally clean this up with a bit of WD-40, but I am out of that. I've got to go and buy a few supplies. So yeah, I'll just do it with a bit of two-stroke oil today. Probably a bit rough. You're going, oh, you're rough. Yeah, well, I'm in a little tiny shed working on chainsaws, so, and they all seem to work just fine. I think I've had about, I don't know, it's coming up 9 successful builds now, and I don't have too many issues with these with the builds themselves. Just had a thought, just for fun, to check this crank out with the verniers here. Just turn them on, zero them out. I don't know how accurate this is. I've seen one guy doing this on some two-stroke video or something like that. And just check our distance up here. So that says 37 mil roughly. We'll just check our distance down here. Let's see if our cylinder's splayed out a bit. It's actually, cylinder. Crank. It's actually really good. It's pretty much dead on. So yeah, really good. Now the measurement. That's not going to work that end because it's all different thicknesses. What are you doing? Try in here. No, it doesn't really matter. It's the outside I think you're supposed to test anyway. But so that basically that means that this crank is not like splayed out, and it's going to run pretty true in there, which is cool. Be interesting test to do on the other crank actually. Let's get that other crank up here. I actually don't see anything wrong with this crank. Like, I'm not going to use a key anyway in this, so I don't see anything wrong with it. But Steve wants the other one, so he gets the other one. We have a measurement of, it's a bit tinier, this one, just, and that's around there. Then we'll go to the top of it. Woo! Jumps up a little bit there. So this crank is actually pinched a little bit in there. Just ever so slightly. It's so marginal though, you wouldn't probably worry about it, but it is pinched a little bit. So that other crank is going to be a lot nicer, it's going to be a lot truer. So everything helps with power at those RPMs. That's why I'm getting ceramic bearings for my 4.6, because above 10,000 RPM, ceramic bearings come into their own, and they're supposed to give you a 7% power increase. And I've used them once before on my MS250, that's in the videos, you'll see, and they cranked along. It was it turned my tweaked out MS250 that was more powerful originally than the 251 into a lot slower saw. So yeah, interesting anyway. Bearing fell out there, so you can see how big these needle cages are that are in here. Ooh, huge. Anyway, that's what it rides on. I've got to clean all this up. I'll make a bit of mess, a bit of noise and stuff like that with compressor, and then I'll get back to it when I am fitting these up, so I'll catch you a bit later. Right, it's recording again. Just going to join these two crankcases together now. Just had to do a bit of sort of prep in the background with the camera off, because otherwise it would have been so tedious, because I forgot about heaps of things that I need to do. Just got my boy Ezra here with me. He's hanging out for a bit. Do you want to say hi to the guys on YouTube, Ez?
Yeah.
Say hi, big loud hi.
Hi.
That was Ez saying hi. So what I'm doing here, guys, is just taking the Permatex. This is how I built this saw before. And the gasket's on the other side of it. And use the gasket as well for a spacer, because you don't want too much slop in these saws. But I just pad a little bit on here. This is just like, actually that's probably not a good idea. You really need to wear your seatbelt all the time. I don't know. It's a good safety measure as far as you're not going to get any leak. And you don't need loads and loads of this stuff on. I just dab it on with my finger. Dab. It's all around there. This is just going on one side. The other side's already sort of got it on, and the gasket's already on there. So yeah, I had to when I start talking about the cylinder on the top, I had to make an adjustment to the gasket, because I didn't get a gasket with this kit. So I just had to cut it a bit bigger, because the 090 head fits on quite differently from the 070 head. So I'll show you those differences once we've got this together. And so I just try to make an even sort of a bed with this. This stuff is great because you just put it on wet. It says to put it on wet and put things together wet with it. You don't want to let it dry. I mean, you can leave it for a little while. I've left it for a little while and it's done the same job, but not, you don't ever want it to fully tack off. So that's that. I'm just gonna put it back in its little package now. I just put a bit of clear plastic bag around it, just to make sure I've blocked out all the air so it doesn't harden off. And this stuff will last you for ages. You did that. Just screw it back on nice and tight. Go back over there. Just wipe the finger off. So now, as you can see, we've got our gasket maker on there. She's ready to go, ready to put together. So I'm just going to flip this side up. And I've got the other side here as well too. So the important thing to do now would be to put the crank in. This is a new crank. I cleaned it up a bit. The rust was actually on here from delivery. It'll be alright. I've cleaned it up a little bit. Yeah, it'll be fine. So it's got these little groovy bits in it on one side. I actually decided to put those, I don't know what reason for, to the outside and leave the flat against the flat wall of that there. So those washers are on there now, and you can just place that in there. So it's easy to tell. Here's the keyhole, flywheel side. Okay, so you can't get it confused. And plus the taper for the flywheel's on this side, and there's no taper on the clutch side at all. Alright, so that's how you know. So this part of the saw, this is the PTO, the clutch side, power transfer, whatever you want to call it. And it's already got the needle cage bearings in there. They're actually quite nice and greased. I did grease them up a lot. Oh, one thing I did want to do is just grease this bearing, because that bearing in there is fresh. So I'll just get my little grease pump.
Can I grease it?
Grease pump. And grease in there. Now Ezra just wants to have a go, so I'll give him a go. Right. Sorry, you won't be able to see this, but he's greasing it. Yep, just put some in there. Yep, pump it hard. Pump it hard. Yep. That's good. Alright, thanks Ez. That's super. I'm just going to put a bit more on screen so the guys can see. So I've just got my little handy grease gun here, thanks to my father. My father gave me this tool. And I'll just grease up this bearing in here really well, just so it's got a good start to life in an engine. And grease them up. Alright, so taper, flywheel side. So this is the clutch side, that's going to go on this side of the engine. Now let's slide that in there now. And that just will come up against the seal now on that, and I can just clunk. That's it, clunk. Let's just push through the seal there. And got the same on the other side. I'm just going to bring it together now. Slide her all together. It's a bit tricky with the handlebar in there actually. How did I do it last time? That's how I did it. Don't know how that happened actually. It just went in. So push it in there. And these can just go all the way now. Push right through. And that'll come through the seal on the pressurize it too much. It's moving back out. Is careful. Just about to drop a whole bunch of stuff on the floor. Right. Let's move that around. The shaft is slightly greased, so it should just come through. Hopefully, without inverting that seal. I might just there's my tool. I might just drop that magneto off there and just make sure that, oh, no, it should be right. It should be right. It's just a bit harder for it to come in. Actually, that should fit quite nicely because it's the taper side. So I'll probably just pull it through now anyway. It should just pull through. Right. Yeah, it's got some of the screws are through. So this has got 5 screws here. Just use these screws to pull it through. Seal's looking nice. Some of these screws down here. And I'll turn it around in a second so you can see a bit more of what I'm doing. I'm just going to tweak this one up a bit. There we go. Put this one on down there. I'll show you the spring washers in a second and everything as well too. Give me a second as everything comes through. Right. So, got one nut fell off there. So this side just has spring washers, little spring washer, and little 10mm nuts there. And they just go around there like that. And just wind them on. I'll just get these on and then I can spin it around and you can see a bit more of what's going on in there. Everything just should pop through nicely. This saw is honestly one of the easiest saws you can get to put together. It's there's fiddly bits on it, like all saws, but this is pretty easy, pretty crazy. There we go. Alright, I'll just turn it around now. So you can see, as Ezra said, yep. So you can see.
I said the exact opposite.
Oh, did you? He said the exact opposite. There you go. So I'm just going to turn that in there like that. Turn that in there like that. I'm just going to pull the crank up to make sure it's just moving nicely in those seals. Alright, sorry, hands are in the way. Yeah, I know. You can see the 5 bolts in there. Basically, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bolts. And the nuts. Spring washers. So, once I've got these all down to a level where they're actually gripping, I'll tighten them up with a bit more order. That's all actually come together really nice in there now. Sealing up really well. So as you can see, it's just all come through. No worries there. I will, once I've got this on, I'll probably drop this magneto off on this flywheel side. I'll drop it off just to check that that seal's okay, but I think it's popped through. It's on the taper that side, the taper for the flywheel, so yeah. Anyway, that's all moving nice and freely. So really good start. And so now we just tighten these. Bit of stinky fuel spillage here. Just the way it is at the moment. Wipe it up soon. And of course you want to make sure these are in nice and tight. That's your crankcase. Right, that's about as much as I do go in there. Right, just wipe up this fuel now. It's leaking out the vent. The vent here. Sorry about the coughing. A little bit of flu at the moment. Oh, and that crank is moving really nicely in there now, so I'm pretty confident actually about that. See, they do have a bit of side play in these. You can see that, hear it. Yes, but that's okay. It's this movement that you don't want. That movement is okay. Up and down movement is not good. So I can't feel anything there. Can't feel anything. It's really solid. So those bearings are good. So crank in. Fairly easy, right? Fairly easy. There's a piston. The rings are going to go on that. That's probably the next step actually, is just to put these rings on here. But before we do that, I probably just want to wind up this video here, because that's the crankcase assembly for the I-90 and well, 070 transforming into an 090. Yes, I will get to this. We'll get to this. But we'll just put that aside at the moment, and I'll bring this other piston up here. Now, the old piston has transfer ports and cutouts for them, similar to what a Husqvarna is really, and see, they have this in there for those transfer ports, and it even has the impulse hole. You've got to be careful not to block them up. The impulse hole that goes into this, that all sits on top of there as well too, so you got to be careful not to block that up with the gasket maker or the gasket itself. But the 090, the larger cylinder here, has none of that. It just blocks off everything. So I didn't get a gasket with this set, so, but this will work fine. Gasket maker and this will work fine. So I had to basically do that, because that blocks off all those sort of the side entry transfer ports on this, and yeah, because the transfers start way up inside here, as you can see, the transfers, and yeah, so that was really interesting. So I just cut a little bit off the gasket, and that'll work fine. That will work fine. And so this just goes on here, of course, with the cylinder, of course, and just sits down, beds down there like that, and that is the start of the beast. So there we go, there's that for now, and I'll just end this video here with this crankcase assembly. So what did we do today? We got the cleaned up the crank, showed you the needle cage bearings inside this 070 090 case, and you see me easily, without any pressing or something like that, pull those this through the seals, and everything's just lined up pretty mint. You saw me use the gasket maker as well too on the case, so that's both sides. It's just it's insurance, and I don't know why this is sitting up, but I thought I trimmed it. There's a little bit of the gasket just sitting up there, so I'll just trim that off, make it nice and flat. I'm going to use some gasket maker on the bottom. It's going to happen. It's a good idea. Just on here, this surface where it comes down will help me hold the gasket on, and then this surface, this will just mate up to the gasket, and that'll be fine. I won't put any gasket maker on here. It just makes life difficult when you're getting your piston to slide over those rings when it's all oily, because you want to use some oil on your rings when you're sliding it over. But anyway, that's it for now. I will get on to the next stage of videoing this for you, and we'll go from there. Stihl for life. Stihl.